There is a particular kind of suffering that comes not from outside attack, but from a slow, creeping sense that you have wandered too far from something essential. You look at your life, the relationships, the finances, the health, the quiet ache of unfulfilled desire, and somewhere beneath the frustration is a deeper question. How did I end up here? And more urgently, is there a way back? Not back to some idealized past, but back to the version of yourself that knew what it was to feel whole, capable, and at home in your own life. If you have ever sat with that question, then what Neville Goddard taught about the parable of the prodigal son was written for you. Neville Goddard taught that the Bible is not a historical document. It is a psychological drama. Every story, every character, every journey in Scripture is a precise description of what happens inside human consciousness. When he turned his attention to the parable of the prodigal son in the Gospel of Luke, he did not read it as a story about a wayward boy and a forgiving father. He read it as a map of exactly how consciousness descends into limitation and exactly how it finds its way home. The parable begins with a son who demands his inheritance early, leaves his father's house, and squanders everything in what Scripture calls a far country. He ends up feeding pigs, starving, forgotten. Then the text says something that Neville Goddard considered one of the most important lines in all of Scripture. It says, "He came to himself." Not that someone rescued him, not that circumstances changed, he came to himself. That is the turning point. That is the whole teaching. What Neville Goddard was pointing to here is that the far country is not a place. It is a state of consciousness. It is the state of forgetting who you are. The Father's house, by contrast, represents your true nature, the awareness of I am, the understanding that imagination is God, that consciousness is the only reality, and that whatever you truly assume to be true will harden into the facts of your outer world. The son did not fall into poverty because the world treated him badly. He fell because he moved in consciousness away from the truth of what he was. And he returned not by changing his circumstances first, but by coming to himself, by shifting his inner assumption before a single external thing moved. You are already that which you want to be, and your refusal to believe this is the only reason you do not see it. That is Neville Goddard's core claim, and the parable of the prodigal son is its illustration. The son, in the depth of his misery, does not wait for evidence. He says, "I will arise and go to my father." He makes the inner decision first. He occupies the state of the son before he is received as one. And then, only then, the outer world rearranges itself to match his inner revision. Neville Goddard described this pattern in his lectures as the movement between states of consciousness. He taught that you are always the operant power, that you are always dwelling in some state, and that state is always projecting itself outward as your life. The question is never whether your assumptions are shaping your world. They always are. The only question is which assumptions you are living from right now. Here is exactly what to do tonight. Before you sleep, take 5 minutes. Lie still. Let your body relax completely. Then ask yourself, what would I feel right now if the thing I most desire were already true? Not what would I think, what would I feel? Let that feeling rise in your chest. Maybe it is relief. Maybe it is quiet joy. Maybe it is simply the sense of pressure lifting. Stay with that feeling. Do not force images. Do not construct elaborate scenes. Just inhabit the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Let it be as natural as breathing. Then sleep from that state, not toward it, from it. That is what Neville Goddard meant when he said to sleep in the assumption of the wish fulfilled. You are the prodigal son. You are not trying to earn your way back. You are simply coming to yourself. The father in the parable does not require explanation. He does not ask where you have been. The moment the son is seen coming from a great way off, the father runs to meet him. That is how your deeper nature responds to a genuine shift in assumption. It does not withhold. It moves toward you the instant you move toward it. The far country ends the moment you decide it does.